On February 24th, President Putin announced a special military operation against Ukraine. This war has lasted for a year, and the war has become the most far-reaching contest in the entire Eurasian continent after the Cold War. During this year, the smoke was filled with life and death. On the eve of the first anniversary of the war, U.S. President Biden made a surprise visit to Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, and met with President Zelensky, which once again demonstrated the U.S.'s support for Ukraine and sent a signal that the international situation is developing in a direction that is not conducive to Russia. Judging from the current overall situation, Russia is really weak. Regardless of whether Russia is on the battlefield or Vice President Zhang Yu continues to fight, Russia's politics and diplomacy will have a great negative impact. Jin has noticed the outbreak of the Russian war. Afterwards, most of the countries in the world maintained a sympathetic attitude. At least 46 countries or regions have imposed sanctions on Russia or promised to abide by the sanctions imposed by the United States and the European Union. Russia has become the most sanctioned country in the world. At this critical moment, Wang Yi, director of the Foreign Affairs Office of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, visited Europe. On February 22nd, he met with Russian President Putin in Moscow. After the friendly relations between China and Russia, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China issued China's position on a political solution to the Ukrainian crisis. Dialogue and negotiation are the only feasible way to solve the Ukrainian crisis. Ukrainian President Zelensky responded by learning that China proposed a political solution like a war. He has not seen the relevant documents and will respond after seeing the specific content. He said that Ukraine hopes to have a meeting with China. China started talking about Ukraine and sent some signals. It is also quite delicate. The key question now is not whether the war should end, but how. Putin once expressed his expectation that Chinese President Xi Jinping will visit Russia to experience a more profound partnership. The Wall Street Journal quoted sources as saying that the Chinese head of state may meet with Putin in April or early May. The gesture of peace is undoubtedly an attempt to repair relations with European countries. From another perspective, China does not want Russia to suffer too much loss or even collapse in the war. After all, it is a check and balance with loss. Power in geopolitics has no permanent enemy, only permanent interests, and the game of great powers is based on their own interests. Belarus and Ukraine have been fighting for a year. Who is the defender of international security, and who is the threat to international security? Who is shaping the peace, and who is going to continue the war? U.S. President Joe Biden is praising North Vietnam's steadfastness when Western democracies can stand up to Russia's naked aggression and express precisely how Ukraine has turned into a neo-Nazi regime visiting Russia. Like Iraq, but Putin said that the United States should be held accountable for the war. Who is responsible for the war? Maybe now is not the time to bear the brunt of the war. We should discuss how to end the war and restore a peaceful world.